Welcome. We are looking at monetizing. Everything needs izing these days, doesn't it? Monetizing your candidates, because we want to place more, we want to sell more. Very few of us come to work for the sake of it. Most of us have businesses and come to work to earn money. Some of us would like it to be easy and not complicated. We've had enough complications and curveballs and speed bumps put in the way of recruitment in recent years. So I'm Lisa from Barclay Jones. I'm the Jones. And if any of you are wondering who's in charge out of Wayne and I, just look at the brand and you'll see that one part of the brand is bold and the other one isn't. That was my clever way of asserting my 5'2" stature in comparison to Wayne, who I'm going to ask him to introduce himself, but Wayne's 6'5". So you can imagine I have to punch above my weight, literally. Wayne, what's your name? Where'd you come from? What do you do?
Name is Wayne. I come from Plymouth originally, but live in Leeds now. And what do? I'm director of Barclay Jones and love automation and all things tech.
Absolutely. We've both been in the market for 25 years. And I say that because every day is a school day. And someone actually said to me this morning, someone who's been in the market for just as long said to me that they had a call this week from a training company who said, quote unquote, you need young people to train recruiters because this us old lot don't know what we're talking about. And he just went, funnily enough, it turns out I'm the trainer in my business. And the one thing they didn't ask me was what I do for a living. And I said, that's a cardinal sin, isn't it? Not finding out what the person you're speaking to is talking about. And when it comes to automation, that's actually really important. So Wayne and I've got a bit of experience to share with you today. And if any of you are, some of you are our lovely clients, you'll know that already. We like talking, don't we? So we ultimately do three things. We train recruiters and we love doing that. And we've got a lot of experience and we work with a lot of clients to help them get their recruiters cooking with gas. We also optimize their Bullhorn platforms as well. So we will look at their vision for the business and then help them tweak Bullhorn so it goes faster and get their recruiters adopting it. And then automation is a big deal. We are automation buddies for our clients. Wayne, talk a little bit about what that is, please.
So we've been working in automation for a very long time now. Invariably, clients come back to us and say, look, the person who was managing automation has left. So they ask us to retrain. It may be that a client has, they finished their implementation and the person's still not unsure as to what they should be doing with automation, or they just need a leg up and some support and some guidance as to what will work, what won't work. So we coach them, we buddy them, we spend time with them either on a weekly, bi-weekly or monthly basis, just giving them some strategic direction and giving them some drive as to what they should be doing to get things over the line. We can be checking their automations once they're live to give them that extra boost and that extra confidence. And ultimately, a lot of clients, especially the SMB market, they're busy running their businesses. So what they want to be able to do is sort of outsource and help, and get support from an automation expert that can say that we've got what you want to do. Let's go and build the automation. Let us help release the automation and get it tested, released, and track it, monitor it. Is it working? Far too often we see automations that are switched on and forgotten about. Yeah. And actually, you need to monitor this. You need to manage these automations. It's not a set and forget it. It's an engagement platform. You need to be monitoring and managing it all the time.
I always see automations as like fluffy kittens. Yeah. Would you just let them run around destroying your business? Or do you want to train them? Maybe a bad analogy. Pigeons might be better. We're from York. Well, we're not from Yorkshire. Neither of us are, but our children are. The key to Buddy is that we're going to give you a big squeeze and a big cuddle. It's lonely running a business. It's sometimes lonely automating a business. You want to learn from the mistakes potentially of your peers, and you want to lean on us. We've done over 400 automation projects now. We don't look a day over 12, do we, Wayne? Automation keeps you young, doesn't it? She says, and so does the soft focus in Teams. Right, we've got more automation hacks. So this is the next one next month. I mean, we've not even finished this one and we're telling you to register. Be sure to, I'm going to put a link to this webinar in the chat in a second. Click on it, put your name in, sign up. It doesn't get any easier than that. And then you can hear us talking to you again. But we know you want to make more money from this stuff. Stop telling us that you're spending loads of money on automation. I hear a lot that automation is expensive from people who don't have it or from people who've got it and are not using it properly. Do you know what's really expensive? Not automating and hiring loads of manual labor. That's really expensive. What's really expensive? LinkedIn Recruiter. really expensive. Job boards, really expensive. Automation is not expensive. It is, though, if you don't use it. A bit like if you have a Ferrari and you park it on your drive and you don't drive it anywhere. And I say with Buddy, we'll drive it for you if it's sat there, or we'll sit in the passenger seat and show you how to drive it. But for God's sake, get it on the road. Yeah, same thing. I'm really interested to hear about your Bullhorn adoption. We ask this in every webinar because it's a passion project of ours. Why buy Bullhorn if it's not first in your business, she says. Why are you doing this? Why are you giving Bullhorn loads of money and not making anything from it? So I'm really interested. Grab your mice, take less than 10 seconds. Is it first, last, sometimes never, or one of our clients only? And trust me, I've got a testimonial from him this week. We're his automation buddy, and he also uses our recruitment training platform HIT. And he says categorically, with less staff than he had last year, he is making more money. End of. Yeah, it is possible. Quickly click. We're not going to continue on that now. I'm going to close the poll. No messing. Right then. Also, if you've got lovely recruiters in your business and you need them to use the platform better, yeah, and you need to generate more sales, the Bullhorn Tips webinar we've got in a couple of weeks is just for them. Okay, we've got recruitment here. I'm always going to be talking to you about this. Some of our clients are on this platform right now. Our recruitment hit platform is Bullhorn Training, Automation, Analytics, Pager, Interview, LinkedIn, recruitment training, sales training, temp recruitment training, counter offer management, loads of stuff on there, all in 2 to 5 minute chunks, gamified, gorgeous. Be sure to sign up for a trial if you're not using it right now, and go onto our website for our 1 minute tips. Loads of 1 minute tips, clues in the name. I want to know, though, where do you need to improve performance? This is a really important question because lots of our clients need to improve in various ways, but I'm really interested to hear, and you can click more than one, where if you could point a laser or automation, would you improve the performance of your business? Where would you want to do things better? What do you need to go faster? What do you need to be why do I need all this tech? Can't they just... What bit of the process is really letting you down right now? Maybe you're spending too much time on it and it's still not giving you a return on effort, which one of our clients gets really off on, return on effort. Yeah, very few recruitment businesses actually measure the cost of a sale. Yeah, but there will be parts of your process that you need to sometimes butt kick, and automation should do that for you.
And I suppose some of the answers for this poll, Lisa, will help us guide what potential future webinars we'll focus on as well.
Absolutely, as well as our sales pipeline, she says, because isn't that the point of this, she says. Yeah, God forbid. Right, let's move on. So you have a process. It's not often linear. It's normally running around like lunatics trying to make a placement. Yeah, but don't we just love it? However, in recent years, with more tech and data, oh my God, has it become a very disconnected process, one that takes a lot of data management, and recruiters today are very different from recruiters yesterday. And again, I'm talking to the people that I spoke to earlier in the day where they've got 20 years each experience, and they're saying the recruitment process hasn't really changed. And I would say, and this is the problem, that's the problem, the process hasn't really changed, but the tech is really making it harder, I think, in many instances. So to just set the tone, I'm just going to rinse through some stats to warm you up for Wayne. But we know that if you engage with tech better and you get your data sorted, that you're going to spend less time doing the wrong things and more time doing the right things. Yeah, don't just buy loads of tech and hope it works. When did that ever happen? Yeah, strategies for candidate management and candidate engagement are freaking important. Yeah, because if you advertise, most of the candidates that apply are not right. One of our candidates recently admitted 83% of applications were a waste of his time in his business. He's got 40 recruiters. So 83% of the CVs that come into his business, waste of time. So my answer to that is, why do you keep doing it then? Why aren't you engaging with the candidates you've already got? Yeah. Don't tell everybody that you haven't got a database by advertising, because that's what you're doing. Stop buying LinkedIn recruiter licenses when actually you've got enough data. This particular client's got 200,000 candidates on their system. Is that not enough to sustain 40 people? Now, I get you might need a bit more every now and again, but when you're listening to Wayne's tips around candidate engagement, be thinking about that. Yeah, even if you're only a 5-person business, and by the way, We are too. There's 6 of us. Yeah, you want to be lean, you want to be mean, you want to be effective. But even with a 5-person business that I spoke to yesterday, they've got 15,000 candidates on their business, on their system from the last 10 years. Plenty. Most of them might be dead. Not really, hopefully not. That'd be terrible. But let's not forget that's what candidate engagement is all about, because most of the candidates you place, you've already got before you source them from elsewhere. So stop funding LinkedIn and job boards with your disorganization. Big smile on my face when I say that, rather than me feeling like I'm telling you off. So I want you to be thinking about the Bullhorn Grid report. That's actually very interesting reading, and it's very speedy as well. Some really cool stats in there. But one of the things that the report did actually say is candidates are telling you what they want. Yeah, they want to be engaged with. Yeah, they want to be kept clean. They want you to look after them. It might not take as much effort as you think, hence automation. It's never been easier, by the way, to manage your candidates and engage them. But actually, most recruitment leaders said, oh, my candidate pools are driving me insane. Why aren't I making any money from the data? Well, the reason why you're not making any money from the data is because you're not making any money from the data. You're not focusing on your data. You're not focused on it making money. You're just piling more in and hoping it works. And again, that was never a great strategy. So to keep warming you up, why do you need a candidate engagement strategy? Yeah, well, you're all in this webinar or watching this recording for a reason. I hear a lot, candidate short. I would comment with maybe you're short of engaged candidates rather than just being candidate short, right? That shows itself in a lack of loyalty, doesn't it? Dropouts, counter offers, or just candidates being a pain in the bum. Your poor data quality can manifest itself in a number of different ways, and ultimately it's a good excuse for your recruiters to not engage with your platform and to do have their own little businesses within yours, which can make for trickiness, is probably a polite way of saying it. And again, my 20-something years in the recruitment industry, I've seen lots of hearts broken and lots of recruitment leaders losing the will to live or hair or whatever is going on. But I want you to maintain control of your businesses and your disciplines and your departments. I want you to attract and manage and differentiate, and I want you to win, because we know that time is being wasted on cold databases, slow sourcing, less engagement. We also know that when you're wasting time, you're slow, and your competitors do well out of that, don't they? We also know that you're wasting loads of money, and you therefore need to advertise because you are using LinkedIn, you're using job boards and I keep hearing those prices are increasing. Well, and stop using them. You're making less placements because and you're losing money because of that, and ultimately as well then you're having to hire more people and increase salaries, and new starters take longer to bill because it's that definition of insanity, just hitting that cold database and hoping it works. And there's a lot of risk in the market as well, because we know there's inconsistent processing of candidates when they come in and registration and that kind of stuff. We know the messaging might be inconsistent as well. The journey that they get might not be great. Their experience might be also driving inconsistent sales, which isn't brilliant. And also those dropouts, those counteroffers, those ghosting that really break the hearts of your recruiters, it's got to stop. And that's why you need a candidate engagement strategy. So think about what the candidates are telling us. Yeah, they've told us through the grid that they want to be looked after. But that doesn't mean you showing up at their house with a Mars bar and a Diet Coke. It does mean giving them information, making them feel loved. Yeah. That's okay with automation. It can be human before you think, I don't want it to be a robot. It can be absolutely human. You just need to work with us and we'll show you how. Subtle sales pitch. So I'm going to hand over to Wayne and shut up, but I hope I've warmed you up, ready to hear about what you can do to make sure you've got a really effective candidate engagement strategy so you can monetize your candidates. Off you go.
Thanks, Lisa. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different from the previous webinars. Previous webinars, we've given you lots of ideas about webinars that you can do, but this one is one that comes up a lot, which is what do we do with our candidates? We've got thousands, tens of thousands, millions of candidates on our database. And there's obviously the blueprint that you can use to re-engage candidates. But what we tend to see is when people engage with that, they've not really thought it through as to what it is they're trying to achieve. So today I'm going to take you on a journey. This is a typical sort of buddying session that we would do for those clients that are wanting a candidate strategy and what they should be doing with all those wonderful candidates on the database. So I'm going to talk to you about what the strategy is. There's no point waking up lots and lots of candidates if you do nothing with them. And that's something that we see a lot of. I've got 10,000, 20,000 candidates that have come back to me and said they're active in the market. and then they just sit there, and it's the same principle, same strategy of what you've done, dumping loads of candidates in the database and doing nothing with them. So today I'm going to talk you through some prep work you should be thinking about, as well as a specific journey that we see, that we work with a lot of clients on, and that we implement. So first thing I would like to find out from you, next slide please Lisa, will be how many candidates do you have on your database? Why do I want to know this? Well, I want to know what size databases you've got. If you've got 10,000 counts on your database, that strategy and that journey might be slightly different to, like I've got with one client, 6.5 million candidates on their database. Don't worry, they're based in the USA, so it's not like, what's that, 1/6, 1/7 of the working population. Drop it into chat for me. Anything over 50, 60,000 candidates, and if you're a business of less than 10, 20, 30 people, then that's a very large database. As soon as you get into the hundreds of thousands of candidates, then you've got an awful lot of data in your database. That is probably very, 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 very cold. So very keen to know roughly how many candidates you've got in your database. I'll let you guys carry on filling that in. If we go to the next slide, please. Perceptions of data, not just Bullhorn, but data in general. This is what we see a lot of. What's in the database? Well, there's too much rubbish in the database, therefore we don't go and source from the database. It's not Bullhorn first, it's Bullhorn last. What we want to be doing with this journey and these automations is changing the perception of those candidates in the database. We want it to be a database, not a data dump. And that's really important. If we can just look at the next slide, if we can be educating to everybody that 72% of the times, if you've got, as I say, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 candidates in the database, then 72% of the time, those candidates that you're sourcing are probably already on your database. And we know from Bullhorn Analytics, if you're a perm recruiter and you source from the candidates from your database, you can reduce the time by a third to place them, versus if you're sourcing externally, i.e. going to LinkedIn and reaching out, or alternatively running an advert and waiting for people to come back to you. So we want to make sure that we're energizing and engaging and monetizing the data in the database. So next poll, what is your current candidate strategy? This is going to be interesting for you to go away and think about this. It's going to be one of those areas whereby if Lisa launches the poll, I want to know whether or not it is a data dump, and that's the perception, or whether or not you are genuinely a Bullhorn first business and you really, really keep those candidate pools warm. In my mind, you go from the bottom of the ladder, it's a dump, up to, well, recruiters have their own strategies, and that seems to work for some people, but not everyone. And in a way, that means that the candidate experience is inconsistent, and therefore the branding and the loyalty to your brand is very inconsistent. Up to, we've got teams of people who are very much focused around pools of candidates. So if you work in temp or contract, if you've got an FLT division and they've got a list of very warm candidates, that's a good strategy to have. Likewise, if you're Bullhorn first, you don't need to go to those other sources. You've got a warm, happy database. It's very engaged. And that's where we're going to sort of been trying to move you towards today, into that warm and that Bullhorn first space through this strategy that I'm going to show you. Okay, let's close that down. Okay, good mixture there, good even balance actually. So first and foremost, what is your strategy? Just talk to you about what the strategy is. So one of the things that we see a lot of when you're dealing with candidates and you think you've got a load of candidates in your database, you need to be thinking about where are we in terms of the current strategy and where do we want to get to? Pull up the next information, Lisa. So one of the things you have to be able to do is you have to be able to communicate this back to your business. There's no point you doing a candidate engagement strategy if you've not communicated out to the rest of the business as to what you are trying to achieve and also what you expect from your recruiters. If you wake up 50,000 candidates and you don't tell them that you've woken them up, they'll just sit there. So you must be able to articulate what your current strategy is. That's building candidate pools across your temp team or your contracting team, then have that as a strategy, but be able to communicate that as well. Lisa, the next set of bits. So train and embed the process. Once you've understood what your strategy wants to be, then you need to be able to communicate it. If you don't know what your strategy is, or you don't know what's happening, then have some workshops, assess. Get your team to discuss what they think will work for them and what won't. But you must be able to communicate what your recruiters need to be able to do. So the first action that I'm going to ask you guys, if you're wanting to do this, the first action you need to go away and do, next slide, will be very much define your strategy and communicate that to your team. Now, if you're worried about doing it to the whole business, not always a good option. If you're a very large organization, focus on a small team or a small location, maybe a branch if you have branches. Focus in and work on them on this defined strategy and get it working for you. Then once you've got it working, then you can roll that out to the rest of the business. So plan of action, first action point, what is your strategy and how will you communicate that to the rest of the business? The next point I really want to highlight is how do we identify the relationship we have with the candidate? So typically there's the candidate status field, and I think status is one of those super important fields. It's either very well used or not used at all. And in my mind, and when I see those clients that have used status really, really effectively, the idea of being able to very quickly identify, we've got a load of candidates that are pre-registered, we've not spoken to them, or we've got a load of candidates that are actively working for us. Now, there is a direct correlation between the number of active candidates you have going through a process, i.e. CV sent, shortlisted, etc., and the amount of money you make. The cash that's coming through. So again, being able to identify where that candidate is in their recruitment life cycle, I think is really important. And those clients that use status really well also have that ability to be able to identify those candidates and understand what's going on with them. So define what each status means. Does everyone understand that what the difference between pre-registered and registered and active is? When should it be used? When should they move from one step to the next? Once you've defined those, just make sure everyone in the business is understanding, educate them. And then on top of that, as leaders or as managers, you need to be checking those numbers. Are we seeing more candidates going active? Are we expecting more money to come through the door? Are we expecting to see more candidates being archived? We're cleansing the database potentially. So monitoring and checking that. The best piece of advice I can give you is keep it simple to begin with. Don't map out 27 steps. Just map out 5 if that's all you need at this precise moment in time. You can always add to it at a later date. I've got their lose the FOMO. Again, I've got one client that's got 37 statuses, and we're trying to say to them, look, you're not using some of these. So try and lose them. If you're worried about changing the status field, then create another field. Call it automation activity or automation engagement. Now, I think candidates fall into one of 3 brackets. They're either actively looking, they're passively looking, or they're not looking at all. And I think what we're trying to do is find where the candidate is in that recruitment lifecycle, and then we're going to take them on different journeys. If you're active, you need to be communicating with them on a regular basis. If they're passive, they're only really interested in jobs. So what are you doing to try and get candidates and send them jobs? And if they're not looking, well, you constantly bombarding them with jobs and opportunities. It's going to annoy them. So put them on a different journey. So that's what we're going to talk to you about in a second. Lisa, if you want the next slide. So where have I done this with other clients? One client had 2 statuses. They've got 3.7 million candidates on their database. They want to run automations and they want to trigger off reminders to recruiters about you've got candidates that have applied and you've not done anything with them within the last 24 hours. You've got candidates who are at pre-screen stage. So they've got 5 statuses, but they only had actually 2 statuses that were trying to manage that entire journey. So we sat down with them and said that automation is going to be difficult to trigger these off consistently. Why don't we change the statuses? They've agreed to that, and now we've got defined statuses for each of those journeys, each of those stages, and we're going to build specific journeys off the back of those. It's going to work really, really well for that client. So your action that I want you to go away, your next action will be to define the statuses. Make it very, very clear. Communicate it, and then you will build some trackers to identify as to whether or not those candidates are moving through those statuses. Okay, last bit of prep. So with automation, you've got to think about the different types of recruitment that you do. So perm processes are generally similar, but a little bit different to your contract and temp processes and your interim processes. So they have different life cycles. You've got to be mindful of that when you're building out these candidate journeys. So perm responses may be a little bit slower. You've got to be in the right place at the right time. What somebody says today may be very different to what they're thinking tomorrow. The contact may be less regular. And generally, the information that you store against a perm person, perm candidate, will generally be quite static in its nature. Whereas with contract, temp and interim, well, it's much more fast-paced or extremely fast-paced. If you're working in a locums business or you're working for supply teachers, you need to be on the ball very quickly. You need to understand what skills they've picked up. Speed is key. Regular contact is key. Again, if you're in that environment, thinking about not just the candidates on the database, but also the candidates whereby you know are working through competitors. My clients call them noobs, not in our books, or traitors. I think they're called traitor lists or traitor contractors. You want to be engaging those people and saying, look, we know you're good people, so how can we engage you? How can we find out when your contract's coming up for renewal? How can we engage you differently from the other parts of the databases? So again, you're thinking about the different journeys. Now, to begin with, you might just want to basically be starting on perm or contract, wherever you make most of your money. That's the area that you want to work on. So as an example, mentioned there, noobs and traitors. They require different journeys. Yeah, we're working with a client that's very, very contract heavy, big perm division, very big contract division and temp division. We've created journeys that are noobs and traitors. Here's a list of people that we would like to work with or have worked through us previously, and we know they work in our space and they were contractors or they're temps, but they're working through a competitor. So we've got bespoke journeys and bespoke automations that are reaching out to those people on a regular basis, asking what they're doing, picking up leads. Where are you working now? Yeah, that's an opportunity for you basically to generate some leads. But then we're taking those people on a very, very different journey to what we would typically do with, say, perm people. So think about those specific areas. So, do you need different journeys? If you only work in perm, you need to think about perm. But if you do have multi-disciplines, multi-departments, then you need to be thinking about where should we start initially. So now that we've done that idea of we've considered essentially why it is you're doing something. What is it you're doing? Why are you having this candidate strategy? What's the journey? What's the message you're sending out to your recruiters? You're thinking about the status, how we're going to track that information, and also we're going to be thinking about the different journeys. The next big thing then is, well, let's crack on and start engaging these people. Let's start building these automations. So first thing that you shouldn't be doing is reaching out to everyone, everywhere, all at once. The reason why I say this, and this is very important, if you've got 3.5 million candidates and the average response rate for somebody who's active in the market, 10 to 20%, then you've got to think about how you'd process and how you'd manage that volume of people coming back in. You're going to overwhelm your recruiters, so all they're doing is screening people, or are you just going to wake them up and then forget about them, which again is not ideal. So you don't want to do everything everywhere all at once. I think that the automations you want to be building initially is going to be based around active, passive, inactive. Think of 3 separate journeys, essentially. Yeah, and your initial outreach will be, what are you doing, Mr. Recruiter, Mr. Candidate? Are you actively looking? Can I send you some interesting jobs as and when they come through? Or are you perfectly happy and I'll just reach out to you once in a blue moon? So as you can see, I've tried to indicate that the volume of communication that you should have through the number of dots. Active, you want to be reaching out on a regular basis. It's another slide I'm going to show you in a minute, which is how often you should be reaching out to people. Passive journeys, probably once every couple of weeks, or once a month. And then inactive journeys, you might be reaching out to them once a month, once every 6 months, once every 3 months, whatever that time frame is suitable for your candidates in your industry. So those are the 3 specific journeys that you may want to end up having. Now, variations on that would be whether or not you've got bespoke journeys for different countries, different skills, or different disciplines, different regions. Yeah, you may end up having lots of different active journeys and just one passive and one inactive. You know, what you guys find out about your own data will determine as to whether or not what type of route you go down there. But typically, start with one active, start with one passive, start with one inactive journey. The aim of the game there is to get some engagement, get a screen, get a contact, make some form of get a candidate to apply for a job. Yeah, that's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to get the candidates in your database to engage with you and hopefully apply for jobs or ultimately get them an interview and ultimately make them some money. How often should you communicate with candidates? I hear this a lot. I've got a lot of clients whose recruiters go, I don't want you to touch my candidates. They're perfectly happy. Well, Bullhorn's analysis, the Bullhorn grid report, again, they state that candidates expect at least 1 communication a week if they're engaging with a recruiter, especially if they're active. If they're passive, probably maybe once a week or twice a month would be more pertinent. And those people that were saying that they're inactive, typically they tend to be less than once a month. So this information backs up, or this evidence backs up, that active, passive, and inactive journeys. Those recruiters that say they don't want their candidates to be reached out to, I always question as to whose data it is. Is it the recruitment company's data, or is it the recruiter's data? If you're an owner of a business, you want to make sure that your candidate's having a consistent message. Well, there's something you could do there. Why not look initially at all those candidates that are not owned by somebody in your business? You may find out it's 50, maybe 75% of the database. We'll work on that data to begin with. Waken that data up, and then you can start realizing what else you could be doing with the candidates that are owned by people. So really important, this, you need to be communicating with people, you need to be engaging with them. So on the right hand side here, I've just got a very basic automation. This is an active candidate engagement process. This one's very specific. It was for back-end tech developers. And so the first thing we did was just reach out to the candidate. Are you looking? What's going on? Etc. Etc. Immediately, one day after that, we then basically said, look, have you checked out our live jobs? Again, we're trying to show them that we've got active opportunities that you want to take people through. After that, we wait a week. Yeah, and then we say, well, why don't you tell us what it is you're looking for? Yeah, if you're active in the market, and we keep these people in the active journey on that basis, then we'll ask them what they're looking for. So lots of opportunities to reach out and engage the candidates, check their data, update their data. You want the automations to be updating your database without your recruiters having to do that admin work. Self-cleansing databases. That's the objective of this particular automation. These lists, as I mentioned, you might want to have specialisms or locations. So this one specifically was for the backups DevOps team, 146 people that they wanted to reach out initially. That's now been upgraded to 10,500 people that were rinsing through that. You might want to identify people that are particularly hard to find. Yeah, if you've got those candidates that are really a candidate short market, then keeping them engaged and keeping them warm so that when you do have an opportunity, they are likely to pick up the phone to you rather than going to a competitor who has kept in contact with them. You might also want to consider those sorts of areas which are time specific. Do you focus on the last 6 months, or do you focus on the very old data initially and try and get that updated? Content wise, with these automations, jobs. We see a massive peak in engagement rates when you just say, I've got this interesting job, are you interested? Or look at our top 5, 10, 15 jobs. Yeah, those are the ones that really do get a lot of engagements, lots of activities. However, if this was a niche, and this one is, we also included a lot of specialist information. You know, what was changing in the C# and the change for VMware, etc. Those back end developers, what they were doing, that was really content specific. Something else I don't see enough of. Keep it fun. Send something interesting out. Don't just talk about jobs and talk about recruitment. Talk about something else. Talk about football or whatever's going on. Now, lots of people say about ROI. What sort of ROI should we expect? This is really interesting. The average database, the active portion of your database, the people that are actively looking at any one time, ranges between 10 and 20% on average from what we see. So if you're reaching out to an active database, I would expect to see around about a 20% engagement rate of your entire database. Yeah, that's the sort of figure that if you're running candidates through an active journey, I would expect to see that sort of engagement rate. If you're there or thereabouts, it's working. If you're high, you're doing something brilliant. If it's a lot lower, then something's not right with that journey. You might need to go and refine it. Passive wise, I'd expect a 10% engagement rate of your entire database. If they're not active, you're not going to get many people coming back to you. However, at some point, somebody who's not active will be active, and if you're in the right place at the right time, they will flip from not active and move into the active journey. Yeah, so expect those sorts of ROI engagement rates. I suggest from the activity that you're going to be sending out. Next slide. So from an automation perspective, go and create an active journey. Define what active means. Is that communicating over a 13-week period, one communication every single week? Is there going to be lots of communications at the early start of the process and then it sort of peters out towards the end? Allow your candidates, have a button on the emails that you send out, say, I found a new job. I don't want to be active anymore. allow them to basically deselect themselves and move themselves into the inactive journey if that's what's needed. Remind yourself that if somebody says that they found their own job, reach out to them 2, 3, 4 months down the line and saying, how's it going? There is a 20% of people who are not happy in their new role. So there's an opportunity to pick those candidates back up. Your passive journey, you might just want to be drip feeding jobs to these people. So if you haven't got the advertised jobs automations built, again, that's a really good one of being able to just drip feed content to your candidates related to jobs. And those inactive ones, if it's 3 months or 6 months, you're just finding out, has anything changed? Yeah, is it worth us having a conversation yet? Do you want to inform us about whether or not you're interested in looking for a new opportunity? Okay, so you've got those journeys, they're working for you. You've got lots and lots of data rinsing through them. Candidates are updating their data. Your recruiters are engaging with those people, or they may not. So you may be generating lots and lots of leads, and this is one of the biggest challenges I see, but your recruiters do nothing with them. So your competitors are going to be saying, thank you very much for having a very bad candidate experience. They've naturally come over to us, whereby we've got a very good candidate experience. That communication thing at the start, we're going to do this, Mr. Recruiter, and we want you to do the following. You need to define what that following thing needs to be. You need to be tracking that. Are they doing it? We've woken up 400 candidates in the last week for a recruiter, and we've noticed that actually 90% of them have had a note, and there's been some form of follow-up action that's already been taken. That is good response. Unlike another client that we've done this for, we've woken up just under 200 candidates and nobody's engaged with them yet. We've highlighted that to the owner of the business. He's now going through and sitting down with those teams and saying, right, we've got all these candidates. What are we going to do with these? So build tracking automations. Track to make sure that there are actions being taken based around what your strategy was trying to do. Educate your recruiters and tell them what you expect them from. So, for example, 15,000 candidates. We've did this a couple of weeks ago. Active responses, 743 candidates were generated from 15,000. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's not quite 10%. We are still working towards that. And again, this is a 12-week program. So we expect that figure to be much higher later towards the end of that journey. But yeah, there's lots of good quality candidates that are being generated from that journey. So, in summary, yeah, that is an end-to-end recruitment lifecycle for your monetizing your candidates. Agree your strategy. What is it you're trying to do? Understand how you're going to track the relationship and what's happening to that candidate. Use status or another field. Build your active, passive, inactive journeys. Again, you may have multiple versions of those depending on individual teams or locations or specialisms. Start small. Start with a team or start with a division, yeah, and work with them to get this process really working for them. Then you can replicate that across the rest of the business. Expand, test, train, release, as I say, repeat. Lots and lots of repeating going on there and checking to make sure it's worked.
Don't forget our buddy program. Don't buy a Ferrari and look at it. Either drive it yourself because you're amazing, which is okay, by the way, or be a passenger and we'll drive it, or get in the driving seat and we'll coach you to drive it better. But don't just sit and look at it and go, that's costing me money. Yeah. If the only ROI from automation that is happening is with Bullhorn themselves getting ROI from you, that for me doesn't feel right. Yeah. And the market is really good at buying tech and expecting it just to work. Automation needs humans, and long may that continue. You know, we're not going to be blended and fed to robots within the next few years. And while that is the case, and we need to automate, we need to be in the room, get on with it. It's good stuff. Never say it's expensive. It's only expensive if you don't use it and you don't get value. Don't forget HIT as well, because I'm a big fan of automate whatever you can and then train the humans. And then you've got a great business, an easy business, a profitable business with loyal candidates and clients and birds landing on your shoulders. Lovely. Don't forget the hacks on our website. You'll hear from me throughout on LinkedIn and all sorts of ways that I get in touch with you, because I've got my own automation as well. As also, if you get an email from me, it's from me personally. So that's definitely not an automation. So have a think about that as well. There's always a time to reach out. And remember our webinars, please, everybody. We've obviously got the 5 automations to make you money coming up in June. And also for your lovely recruiters, 5 tips to find jobs within your Bullhorn system without the need to go elsewhere. Yeah. There's data, there's gold in there. Let's do it. Keep us posted on how you're doing. See you on the next webinar. I'm going to be sending you an email this afternoon asking you for feedback. Press reply. Yeah, it makes us feel nice. And also gives us feedback as well. Have a great end of week, everybody. Really good to see you on the webinar today. Take care.